we are back at it again. I know you guys have missed us for a second. We kind of missed a little recap there, but fuck it. We got Fight Island here for you. What an amazing card this has turned out. Last week, it was Kamaru Usman versus Gilbert Burns for the welterweight title, which that was a very good fight. In and of itself, those two going at each other, former teammates, there was a lot of, history there. Gilbert has seen Kamaru since he was an 0-0 fighter, now being a 16-1 UFC welterweight champion. He's seen the growth in Kamaru Usman. But unfortunately, due to the coronavirus, falling itself upon Mr. Gilbert Burns, we've had an unsettling situation where on Friday evening, we thought that we had lost this main event and we had lost Kamaru Usman off this card forever. There was actually talks of moving Kamaru Usman versus Gilbert Burns to yet another date, maybe the DC card. That never materialized. What actually ended up happening were two gentlemen named Colby Covington and Jorge Masvidal both threw their hats in the ring, and the UFC decided to call on Gamebred. And we're going to see how Gamebred Street Jesus really is when he goes and takes on the Nigerian Nightmare on 6 days' notice on a goddamn island in the middle of Abu Dhabi. How amazing has this whole change of events turned out? Wally, this is the only sport in the world that stuff like this happens. Ariel Helwani said it earlier. Boxing doesn't do anything like this. There would never be a situation where a challenger would step in and take on a champion in boxing on 6 days' notice, nonetheless. And here we are with the number 3 welterweight in the world stepping in and take on, in my opinion, the best welterweight we've seen in a very, very, very long time.
Yeah, let's be clear about something first. We all wanted to see this fight. I don't think that nobody wanted to see really Gilbert against Kamaru. Not shitting on Gilbert or saying that he doesn't have the skills. Just that Masvidal has been like the fighter of the year last year, so everybody loves Jorge and everybody wants to see Street Jesus fighting.
It is an interesting matchup. I have to agree with you. I'm a little more excited for this one than I was for the Gilbert and Kamaru one, even though, there is obviously history there between the two being teammates. There's bad blood between these two. Jorge Masvidal hates Kamaru Usman. Kamaru Usman hates Jorge Masvidal. Their teams hate each other. Yeah. There is deep-rooted tension. Jorge Masvidal's ex-best friend already got beat up by Kamaru Usman. I mean, Kamaru Usman has went through countless ATT guys and here's yet another one, Jorge Masvidal, stepping up for probably what is his biggest opportunity of his life. And if he wins this, will propel him into legendary status. It is a tall order because he is facing the Nigerian Nightmare. But if he is, for some reason, to come victorious on Saturday night, wow. I mean, the sky's the limit for Jorge Masvidal. The UFC is going to have to cut him like a 7-figure check next time they want to see him fight.
If Masvidal win this fight and they decide to do a super fight between him and Conor or something like that, this will be maybe the biggest fight in the history of UFC, pay-per-view wise, and how many people will watch this fight actually.
Well, before we get into Conor fights, let's go ahead and start off in the very first fight at UFC 251. We have Martin Day taking on Davey Grant. Bantamweights going in there. Bantamweights, they always push that pressure. The smaller guys, 135 pounds. Their title will be decided later on in the card, but these two looking to start off what is an amazing opportunity because they are the two gentlemen to be the first to fight on Fight Island.
Yeah, that's good. I believe this is a huge opportunity for both fighters. And, this is the first Fight Island fight. So,
Martin Day is no slouch either, too. I could see him going in there and putting it on Davey Grant.
I think I will have to disagree with you. I think that Davey Grant is actually a more well-rounded fighter, and I think that maybe this will be Davey Grant's night.
Martin Day has a 73.5-inch reach advantage. I think if he can utilize that reach, it'll really, be effective against somebody like Davey Grant. He's not much shorter than him, but he does have much shorter arms.
Yeah. But this is a good fight. I would rather, have a heavyweight fight to start the show. But Why not? Why not start with those two?
No, for sure. I know how you love your heavyweights to start off. We're gonna not get anywhere close to the heavyweight division until the very, very last fight on the early prelims, but that is a great fight. But let's get into the next fight. Women's bantamweight division. Vanessa Melo has unfortunately not fared very well in the UFC so far. She pulls Carol Rosa, and I believe her second UFC. No. Is this her UFC debut or her second fight? I think it's her second fight in the UFC.
It's her second fight. Didn't she fight the same? Is she the fighter that she fought the same card as her husband or something like that?
I don't remember. I know that she was scheduled to fight Juliana Avila like 7 times this past year. Maybe not 7, but at least like 5 times. And they all just fell through, unfortunately. Obviously, you've seen what Avila was able to do a couple weeks ago in her very quick victory. Here we have Vanessa Melo, who I think realistically, if she's able to stay ahead of Carla Rosa's punches, she'll fare off. Obviously, she is the older fighter. Rosa is only 25 years old. So I want to highlight that. She has 15 fights. So she, even though is very young, has a lot of experience.
Yeah.
This could be, Vanessa Melo's very last fight, unfortunately, in the UFC, if she does not get a victory here.
It's pretty rare to see a female fighter that young and have that much of a fight, like 15 fights for a 25-year-old.
I think that is, just give it a credit to where women's MMA is coming and where it's going to continue to grow. You see a lot of young guys, even very young guys have the 23-year-olds having those, 15 fights, professional fights at that. I'm pretty sure she probably just jumped into the professional rankings. But, I mean, you got to understand that's where the future of MMA lies with these young fighters. I mean, look at Sean O'Malley. Imagine when Sean O'Malley, grows into his man body.
I think that he will have to. He will have to move up.
Physical peak.
Yeah.
I mean, he's going to be very, very dangerous and a lot to handle because of how fluid he is and how great he is with his striking. Let's not get off track, though. We'll talk about Sean O'Malley whenever.
Yeah.
But like I said, Vanessa Melo, she needs to figure this one out, or it might be her last UFC appearance, unfortunately. In the flyweight division, we have Rulian Poiva taking on. I'm going to mess this one up.
Do you want me to do it?
You do it so we hear it correctly.
Zhalgas Zhumagulov.
That's what he said, Zhumagulov.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know too much about Zhumagulov. He's 31 years old. They're both obviously 125 pounds going into this flyweight division. He's only 5'3". Yeah. And obviously, Rulian Poiva is 5'7" with a 69-inch reach. I don't know the reach on Zhalgas. I don't have it in front of me right here. I mean, what does his record look like? Where's he been?
Who? The Zhumagulov?
Zhalgas, yeah.
Yeah, so he had 13 wins and 3 losses.
He's the number 2 active flyweight in Kazakhstan. He's the number 2 active flyweight in the Asia Central. And he's the 11th ranked professional flyweight out of Russia.
Okay. So that's pretty impressive. That's pretty impressive. So, so when you say Kazakhstan, so that means that he's not from that Khabib tribe, you know. So yeah, he's not from Dagestan. People would maybe think that he's from there, but he's not. But those Russians, man, they are coming in hot in the MMA world right now, and they're trying to, to take it over.
Yeah, another Russian making his debut, Alexander Romanov, is taking on Marcin Tybura in the heavyweight division. Now, these two big boys, I do not expect it to go to the judges' scorecards. Obviously, Alexander Romanov is 11-0, undefeated. Marcin Tybura, though, is no slouch, 18-6. He has fought the who's who in the heavyweight division.
Yeah.
But, Romanov being the very much younger fighter, 11-0. I mean, it could be, like I said, another coming out party. 29 years old in the heavyweight division, perfect age for that division. You know what I mean? He could go in there and really make a name for himself.
A big win for Romanov in this fight could, project him directly to the top contenders of this division. A guy like Sakai or, because beating Marcin Tybura is not a joke. Marcin been here in the UFC. It's been a while. He had a lot of fights here, so a win for Romanov would be huge, but that's not an easy fight.
Alexander Romanov won his last fight by a slam 2 minutes and 26 seconds into the fight. Obviously, he's going in there and putting ill intent into his opponent. I can't wait. That's going to be an exciting one.
Yeah, you're pretty excited. You're pretty excited for this guy. Like you've been talking.
I really think King Kong is going to do big things in the UFC. I'm excited. He's a young guy coming into the heavyweight division too. You see a lot of guys, when they're like 34, 35 going into the heavyweight division. He's 29 years old. I mean, you're going to see big things from him eventually, especially if he continues to do what I think he can do.
Yeah.
Now, to start off the ESPN, what is this, the second part of the prelims. Now, the very first early prelims are on ESPN as well. They're all going to be on ESPN, so nothing on Fight Pass. But so the second portion of the prelims, Leonardo Santos is taking on Roman Bogtov. Roman is obviously 10-0, great, 29 years old. Santos is 40, much older. Now, how do you see this fight playing out, Waleed?
This is what I think the UFC has planned. I think the UFC has planned to have this Roman Bogotov just maul Leonardo Santos. He's undefeated. He's fighting a way older guy. I think that's what the UFC wants. But is this going to happen? I'm not sure about that. Leonardo has actually a reach advantage. He's much taller than Roman Bogotov, so we will see. But I'm pretty excited about this one. A 10-0 fighter is always pretty exciting to
if
watch.
Bogotov could go in there and do great things, that lightweight division is stacked with a ton of very good fighters. So just throwing another guy in there, what more can we take for that lightweight division? Makwan Arkhani is stepping back into the octagon to take on Danny Henry. Marcani is 15-4. Henry is 12-3. Marcani, didn't he beat Duwadu in his UFC debut?
I think so. Makwan is actually. It's been a while since he's been in the UFC. I think he'd been in the UFC even before the Reebok deal. I'm not sure about that, but ever since I think that's really not really started watching MMA, but ever since I remember him being in the UFC. It's been a while since he's been here. He's a good fighter. He didn't have a lot of fights for a 31-year-old, like maybe people would say. But Danny Henry, same age, less fights. So I'm not sure about that.
The guys that he's lost to in the UFC are Marcani, that is. No slouches there. Shane Burgos, obviously on the top of that featherweight division. Arnold Allen is on the way up in that featherweight division. So Marquand, obviously there's great potential there. He's beaten guys like Jason Knight, Chris Fishgold. So there's great potential there if he can just continue on his path. Staying healthy is important for him.
Exactly. I agree.
Now, Elizeu Salisky dos Santos is taking on Muslim Salikov. Now, I know you're a big fan of both these gentlemen. Tell me, who do you think is going to come out victorious in this huge welterweight matchup?
So, Elizeu, if I'm not wrong, is the crazy fighter that will throw crazy things in the first round, like jumping knee, spinning back. He goes crazy in the first. I'm not sure that's a good plan against a guy like Muslim Salikhov, who
he's the king of Kung Fu, all right?
Yeah. But listen, it's pretty exciting to watch, but is it a good thing to get the W? Because at the end of the day, what you need to do is get the W. So if you don't finish him in the first round, it will be a long night for you.
I think Muslim Salikov is a much more exciting fighter. I think he will be able to push the pressure, and we know he can go the distance and get the victory.
Yeah, listen, if Muslim actually can just, handle the craziness of Elizeu in the first round, I think that he can easily win this fight.
No, for sure. But Ezil is no no slouch. So,
yeah, he's no joke.
He's beaten guys like Curtis Millender. He sent Curtis Millender packing to Bellator, actually. He beat Max Griffin. He beat Lyman Good in a decision. Yeah. Lyman Good is no slouch. You've seen what he was been able to do, especially here recently. This is a very good matchup. I can't say much more than that. Who do you think is going to come out victorious on that?
Listen, I would go with the Muslim Salikhov. I think that he can handle this fight and go to decision and win this, but he needs to be careful to not get caught by those crazy moves from Eliseu.
Yes. I have to give it to you when you said that the longer the fight goes, that it has to favor Muslim. I have to agree with you there. I think that if it does go to the later rounds, Muslim Salikhov is going to figure out a way to keep himself victorious in this. But I think it was going to be a first-round flurry. I really think Dos Santos catches him.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, in the light heavyweight division, one of the fights that I'm super excited for, one that I've really been looking forward to, Volkan Oezdemir stepping back in there against Rizin's former light heavyweight champion, Jiri Prokozok. Now, he is stepping into his very first fight against Volkan Oezdemir. Like we talked about earlier, guys who get a very big name in their very first fight, the UFC has high hopes for them. Obviously, Jiri is no different. He's 27 years old, stepping into his very first fight against a former title challenger. I mean, that's unheard of.
Yeah, this is some sort of the road to redemption for Volkan Oezdemir. After he lost to Daniel Cormier, he lost 2 fights against Anthony Smith and Dominic Reyes. Then he actually won the 2 last fights against Latifi and against Rakic, which is pretty impressive. So another win for him, and knowing what mayhem is going on right now in the light heavyweight division with John Jones, we're not sure if he's vacating the title or not. This can turn out pretty good for Volkan if he keeps on winning these fights.
Yes. Some of the guys who Jiri has beaten over in Rizin is King Mohamed Blawal, Fabricio Maldonado, and then Fabio Maldonado, and then CB Dalloway. I mean, obviously CB Dalloway is mostly a middleweight, from his UFC days at least. But I have very high hopes for this young man coming into the UFC. Like you said, though, if Volkov can get a win here and really stop his momentum coming in there, kind of add that to what he's already been doing here lately, it could really propel himself into the right situation. If he can maybe get somebody like the winner of that Rakic fight next, because Rakic is the co-main event in a couple of weeks. Who's he fighting? Smith or somebody like that? It's a great fight. I think
so, yeah. He already won against Rakic, so if Anthony Smith, maybe they would do a rematch between them. I don't know. Pretty excited for but he needs to he needs to win first this fight, because that's not a joke. This is a very tough fight. No. Then we will see. I think that's right now you can't plan anything because it's mayhem. You just jump when you have the opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, you obviously like the main event. You know what I mean? We had a different main event last week, and now here we are, Kamaru Usman versus Jorge Masvidal. Now here we are finally at the main card. Women's flyweight division, Amanda Ribas is taking on Paige Van Zandt. Amanda Ribas is 9-1, Paige Van Zandt 8-4. This could possibly be Paige Van Zandt's final appearance in the octagon. Everyone's talking about, if she wins or loses this fight, that she could possibly be on the way to Scott Coker's Bellator. I think that she would be a bigger name, obviously, in Bellator. Would she get a title shot against Iluma-Lei Macfarlane out of the, right through the gates? I don't think so. I think Iluma-Lei is probably the second best flyweight in the world at this point, right behind Valentina Shevchenko. I mean, obviously the gap's about this, but she's still behind Valentina Shevchenko. Amanda Ribas, though, is not 25-pound fighter. She's a 115-pound fighter. She said, I'll move up to fight Paige Van Zandt. I will move up to make sure she gets out of the UFC. Do you think that Amanda Ribas is taking a disadvantage at taking this fight at 125? Or do you think that without cutting weight that she'll be a little more energetic and a little more able to finish Paige Van Zandt in what could possibly be her final UFC fight?
I think Amanda Ribas is a very talented fighter. Maybe not cutting weight maybe can turn out to be in her advantage. Maybe not, Yeah, Coca-Cola or Spencer. But listen, I'm not sure if Paige Van Zandt, this will be her last fight. If it's her last fight, it will be her last MMA fight. I don't think that she will move to Bellator. I'm not sure about that. Because you said that maybe in Bellator she will be a bigger star. In the UFC, they put her as the main event in UFC Fight Night in Sacramento, where Uriah Faber retired for the first time. So, and now she's in the main card in Fight Island, knowing that she lost maybe her last 2 fights or maybe more. I'm not sure about that. How can she have more fame and more glory than this?
I just think that she would be a bigger name. I don't think at this point in time, do you see Paige Van Zandt getting a UFC title shot anytime soon?
If she focused on only MMA,
she has to go through she's a strawweight.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's some straight. Yeah.
You got Rose Namajunas has already beat her. Michelle Waterson's already beat her. Jessica Andrade would run through her.
Yeah, there's some. I know there's some big names.
Weili Zhang's the champion. You got to get through her. Joanna Jędrzejczyk.
When I heard her last interview, I believe it was with Ariel Helwani, she was saying that she's making more money with Instagram posts than in actual MMA fights. If she's going to, she's going to retire.
To an OnlyFans, I'm sure she would make a lot of money off that too.
Yeah, she can actually really retire and keep on, because she have other huge opportunities. I personally want her to keep on fighting because I'm actually a fan of her. I think that she's a very talented fighter. Maybe she lost in the middle of it.
She keeps fighting for sure.
But yeah, I'm not. I don't know. Maybe she can do action movies. There's a lot of shit that she can do. So
that's an option.
Yeah, there's so much shit.
She could go to the WWE. I mean, fuck.
She also, yeah, she can do that also.
But I truly think that she's not done fighting. I really think that she's going to go to Bellator after this. I don't see her fighting again in the UFC. I think there's a lot of tension there right now. If she does fight in the UFC, it'll be later on in her career. I think that she's probably going to step away from them for a couple of fights at least. But I truly think Amanda Ribas is going to be the one coming out in this and really showing her skills and showing that she is a very good strawweight and she could last with some of the women in the top 15, 10 through 15, that is.
Yeah.
Now, in the women's strawweight division, we have a rematch for, what was both former strawweight champions, Rose Namajunas taking on Jessica Andrade. In the very first fight, Rose had the fight all the way up until she got slammed on her head. I believe she was out striking Jessica Andrade. And in my opinion, Rose Namajunas probably looked the best that she's ever looked in her entire UFC career. Now, that being said, she got dropped on her head. A lot has happened since then. Rose Namajunas has not fought. Or has she fought at all? No, she hasn't fought at all. Jessica Andrade has fought a couple of times. She's lost her title to Weili Zhang. I mean, what do you think is going to happen here on Saturday night when these two women collide? Do you think we're going to see the same Rose that we seen last time? Or do you think that ring rust might play a factor into it? I know that Pat Barry, her husband, is going to be her in her corner, and they're going to probably have her as ready as possible. But do you think this not have, I will give her this, not having any fans there will probably help tremendously for her. But do you think, just having those bright lights on her, knowing the world is watching, you think that'll, play a factor into the fight?
I'm not sure about that. I hope that we will see the Rose Namajunas that we saw in the first round against Jessica Andrade in the first fight, because that fighter was, like you said, it was her best performance. That first round, she looked amazing. Striking wise, it was flawless. I really hope we see that. But Jessica Andrade, very powerful. Like, she slammed her. Maybe she will do it again. I don't think that she will feel the pressure. Maybe having no noise around her, maybe will turn out in her advantage. I think that Rose Namajunas actually will love the fact that there's no crowd. I really think so.
I think it might even help her a little more, especially this being her very last fight since they fought in Brazil. Now, would do this like a triple header main event. All these title fights are really unpredictable. I know a lot of people are probably leaning toward Petr Yan taking out Jose Aldo, no problem, but you can't really ever count out the veteran Aldo. Obviously, bantamweight is, very good division for him stands now. I think he should have probably been a bantamweight a long time ago. Petr Yan, though, I believe is the future of this division. I believe if you held him back any longer, you're just going to have a caged animal on your hands. I think this is his time and his opportunity to shine. And I think he walks out with that UFC bantamweight strap wrapped around his waist on Saturday night.
In one hand, I personally want Jose Aldo to win this fight because I think that he really deserves it. In the other hand, I think that, for a guy like Petr Yan, this is an opportunity that I don't think that will come out ever again, because the Petr Yan, the Aljamain Sterling are fighters that are actually right now capitalizing in the fact that there is no TJ Dillashaw, there's a Dominic Cruz returning from injury, and there's a Cody Garbrandt that's still coming back up. And there's no
and a Henry Cejudo's not even there right now.
Exactly.
That could really log jam the division with his wrestling.
Exactly, and there's Sean O'Malley still rising, still a rising star. So for those two guys, it's now or never. I really think so. So Petr Yan, I think that this may be his only opportunity for the belt. I'm not sure about that. Maybe maybe I'm wrong. I'm so many times wrong. But Jose Aldo. For me personally, I want him to win. It will be so satisfying to see him win a belt again.
He'd be a two-division champion. He'd be able to the likes of, Conor McGregor, Daniel Cormier, Amanda Nunes. But he would not be a simultaneous two-division champion like those other people. He'd be more in the same category as Randy Couture, who obviously won his title afterwards.
Yeah.
Now, prediction, are you going with Aldo in this fight?
I will actually go with Aldo. I think I will go with Aldo for this fight.
How does it happen?
You know what? I think that if it goes to decision, I may think that Petr Yan will win this fight, but I think that Jose Aldo may, like he did to Jeremy Stevens when he killed his body with the body shots. I think that's what we will see from Jose Aldo in this fight.
I think Petr Yan walks out of Fight Island with the title wrapped around his waist, and I think he finishes Jose Aldo within the first 2 rounds.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes, I think his striking is that crisp. He's a very good kickboxer, and I think if he hurts Aldo, that there's submissions there obviously as well.
Yeah, that's a possibility. Yeah.
In the featherweight division, we have a rematch of obviously great proportion. This would headline any pay-per-view at any time, except for obviously when Kamaru Usman's fighting Jose or Masvidal. But we have Alexander Volkanovski versus Max Holloway finally fighting one more time. Figure out, was Volkanovski really the better man, or is Max Holloway did he just have an off night? Did he just take one too many leg kicks? Has Max done enough to stop those leg kicks? That's my question. Alexander Volkanovski has shown that he has a very, very big demeanor in that ring, and he shows it. He put it on Jose Aldo. He's put it on Max Holloway. He has really looked great since joining the UFC. If you ask me, he's like a little mini Khabib. He can wrestle. He can kind of do it all. I've said it for a very long time that Alexander Volkanovski was one day going to take the title off of Max Holloway. He eventually did that. Just like I said, Kamaru Usman was going to look very, very good against Tyron Woodley. He did the same thing. I think the same thing is going to happen here again, though. I think Alexander Volkanovski has figured out what he has to do to beat Max Holloway. Now, if Max Holloway can stop the leg kicks and implement a little more of his ground game, we might see a different fight, not a different result, but a different fight. I don't know if that's going to be able to happen or not. We haven't really seen a whole lot of both of their ground games against each other. Obviously they're not high-level jiu-jitsu guys. They're more strikers. But if these two decide to go grappling, I would love to see who would have the better of those exchanges.
Yeah, they don't call him Alexander the Great for no reason. Volkanovski is actually right now, in this very second, he is the best featherweight fighter in the planet right now.
Yeah, and just because he's shorter than everybody, don't let that fool you. He's got a longer reach than Max Holloway. Alexander Volkanovski is 5'5". Max Holloway is 5'9". Holloway's reach is 69 inches. Alexander Volkanovski has a 71.5-inch reach.
Yeah. The fact that he's shorter actually helped him with those leg kicks. So,
exactly.
yeah, and Max Holloway, a guy that actually is a master when it comes to handling distance. I believe that he's the best, one of the best ever to do that with using his reach. Couldn't actually really use his reach against Volkanovski, which was pretty amazing from Volkanovski. Now, Max Holloway with his hair, I actually like his haircut right now.
Oh, man. I want to ask you, I want to, bring up something. Max Holloway said that he did not train with any training. He didn't really have any real sparring, and that he had training over Zoom and Skype and stuff like that. Do you buy it, or do you think it's horseshit? Alexander Volkanovski straight said that that's horseshit. There's no way. He had to have been training with some guys. What do you think? Do you think, Max Holloway was just pulling one over on all of us, or do you think really he was training on Zoom and has had no sparring for this fight?
I think that Holloway, if he was in Hawaii preparing for this fight, for sure there was like at least 10 guys with him at the gym. I'm not sure what he means by maybe he didn't spar. Maybe he actually used Zoom in his, I don't know. Maybe he did that, but he didn't like train with nobody. Uriah Hall actually did that. We know that, but his fight got canceled. But yes. So I don't know. I can't tell you that. I think that only Max Holloway will tell us the truth. But can you give us a prediction for this fight?
I think Alexander Volkanovski proves that he is the best featherweight in the world, and he goes out there and puts it on Max Holloway one more time.
Do you think that Max Holloway got like some sort of ever since like his fight against Dustin Poirier, he will never look the same?
I think a lot of people were chiming for him to eventually go to lightweight after the Poirier fight. That lost a lot of mystique. Yeah. I don't know what the future of Max Holloway is. See, especially when you really think about the featherweight division, Zabit Magomedsharipov is on his way. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like how many more fights is that guy going to get until he's realistically having a title fight? And he's probably going to hold on to it for a while. That dude is very, very dangerous. And he would give a lot of people problems, Max Holloway or Alexander Volkanovski. That's the future for Max Holloway. I don't know where it lies. I don't know if it is going to be at featherweight or if it's at 155. I think if he does truly want to jump to 155, he needs to give his body more time to prepare for that division. He's only 28 years old. He's still very young. If he, took a year and got with a real strength and conditioning coach and really put on muscle mass and grew to like 170 pounds and then obviously cut to 55, I think he could be a monster at 55.
Yeah, I agree with you. I personally would go with Max Holloway. I think that Max Holloway got it figured out. I think that he knows what was his mistake and what he needs to do to win this fight. This is my opinion. But Volkanovski is a tremendous fighter. I would go with Max Holloway by decision. But yeah, either way, I would be satisfied because those two fighters are great.
No, for sure. In the main event, probably one of the best main events I've seen in a very long time. Kamaru Usman is stepping in and taking on Jorge Masvidal. Both these men agreeing to take this fight on 6 days' notice. Kamaru's original opponent, Gilbert Burns, obviously fell ill to the coronavirus. Now, for you, is this main event obviously bigger than the other one?
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. And you agree with me. We all agree. Even I think, even Gilbert Burns may agree about that. Listen, Jorge Masvidal, it was all about him. We just wanted to see him fight against Kamaru Usman. Everybody got bummed out when it was Gilbert and not him. Now we have Jorge Masvidal. I do think that he was training, I don't think that he was like sitting, not doing shit, so...
They said he was 190-something pounds, 193 pounds a couple days, like a day ago. So obviously Abu Dhabi is super hot. It's about 100 degrees with like 90-something% humidity, which makes it like 115, 120-ish, some shit like that. Yeah. So it's super hot out there. They have plenty of ways to, get that weight off of him. I don't think that's going to be an issue. He's always been a consummate professional. So outside of like some weird fucking COVID shit popping up out of nowhere, this fight's happening. This is a great main event. I think Kamaru Usman's wrestling is going to play the factor in this. I think he didn't show any of it against Colby Covington. I think he's going to show a lot of it against Jorge Masvidal. I want to point this out to you.
Yeah.
Jorge Masvidal hasn't beat one person in the top 10. Kamaru Usman has already beaten 5.
Interesting.
Very interesting fact. If you add Jorge Masvidal to this list, it would be 6. I mean, Kamaru Usman's little slowly cleaning out this division when you look at people that he's already beaten.
Yeah.
Like I said, 5 of the top 10 welterweights in the UFC, Kamaru has a victory over already. Jorge will make 6. Jorge Masvidal has not beaten anybody inside the top 10. I'm not counting Gamebred out. Okay, you can never count him out. He could do anything. He has obviously the striking to knock out Kamaru Usman. He has the ability to keep the fight standing for a little bit. I don't think he has the ability to keep the fight standing for all of 5 rounds.
When he won against Darren Till wasn't in the top 10?
Listen, I'm talking about the current top 10.
Come on. That doesn't mean shit. That doesn't mean
current top. Askren's not even in the UFC. And Darren Till realized he was cutting too much weight and went to 85. So let's be realistic.
This is just a statistic that you popped out just to make Kamaru even greater, and he doesn't need that. He doesn't need that. Kamaru is already great. You don't need to
16-1.
You don't need that. Yeah, 16-1, and you don't need
possibly the greatest welterweight of all time.
Yeah, we can argue with that.
Tyron
Woodley, when he was champion, we were saying that maybe he's the best welterweight of all time. We always say that to the
current champion. If he beat Masvidal, what more would he have to do?
Oh, there's still matches out there.
Fight Burns. I don't know. That's what I'm asking you. I'm asking you what else is there? There's Burns. I want to see Edwards again.
We can have Colby maybe again. We can have I don't know. We can have Mike Perry. Who knows?
Mike Perry, get out of here! You're crazy.
Come on. Who knows?
Listen, Kamaru Usman has quietly beaten a lot of people in this division, and if I told you earlier that he had beaten 5 of the 10, you probably wouldn't have believed me.
No, I actually will believe you because he takes
Aya, RDA, Tyron Woodley, Leon Edwards, and Colby Covington.
He take people to the ground and destroy them, except for Colby.
That's my thing. I think Masvidal will be able to withstand the takedowns for a little bit. I don't think he's going to be able to withstand the takedowns for all 5 rounds. I think once Kamaru Usman gets his hands around him, I don't think Jorge Masvidal is going to be standing for much longer. I think if Jorge Masvidal wins this fight, it's going to be early. I do not think that he will, on 6 days' notice, be able to last 5 rounds with the pace that Kamaru Usman is about to push. And that is not knocking Jorge Masvidal's condition or anything. I just don't know how he was trained for this fight. I don't know. I mean, obviously he was training somewhat, but he's known for about 5 weeks now probably that he wasn't getting the fight. So now here we are on 6 days' notice, cutting from 190 pounds. Are you focusing too much on this weight cut to, be able to try to prepare, the next 6 days for Kamaru? Is that enough time to, prepare for possibly one of the best welterweights in the world? It's a lose-lose situation for Kamaru also. Yeah. Because if he wins, he should have beaten him. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Exactly.
But if he loses, he lost to a guy on 6 days' notice. The fact that Kamaru Usman took the fight shows how down in game he really is.
Yeah. We all agree about that.
If he wins this fight, I think it propels him into an even bigger portion of that superstar status. I don't think he's obviously at the Conor level yet, but he's definitely up in there with, the upper echelon of the UFC.
Who's closest to that Conor level in this fight, and that's not Kamaru Usman. That's Jorge Masvidal. Yeah, when it comes to popularity.
100%.
Yeah. So this is what I think for Kamaru Usman to actually win. Of course, the grappling would be the key, but Kamaru should not respect Jorge Masvidal. He should like take him to the ground and maul him, because if he starts thinking that, oh, maybe a jumping knee is coming up, maybe a crazy thing, that's where it can be dangerous, and that's where Jorge Masvidal actually can find, like, this can be the key for Jorge Masvidal to actually win this fight.
Yeah, I see Masvidal meeting Kamaru Usman in the middle of the octagon in like 0.2 seconds. I feel like he's just going to run out there. Boom. He's done it in those last 2 fights. I can see it happening again here against Kamaru. I do not think Kamaru Usman's going to run in there with his head down like a dumbass.
Yeah.
I don't think that he's going to kick in the nuts either like Darren Till did. I think Kamaru Usman is going to be a little more patient, let Jorge run all the way to the other side of the octagon. Why halfway?
You know what? I would say maybe Jorge Masvidal will not do it in the beginning of the first round. Maybe he will do it in the second round, or maybe he will even try to do it like in the middle of the round, when there's some sort of distance between the two fighters. I don't think that's, because it will be too predictable for him to do it in the very
Let me ask
first
you
seconds.
a question. What do you think is a smaller gap? Kamaru's striking to Jorge's striking, or Jorge's wrestling to Kamaru's wrestling?
A smaller gap or a bigger gap?
What's a bigger gap?
Bigger gap, I would say Jorge's grappling compared to Kamaru's grappling.
That's what I'm thinking. I think, especially in his last fight, Kamaru Usman has showed us that he's got that dog in him, and he's willing to stand there for 25 minutes and throw leather with you.
Yeah.
I have not seen Jorge Masvidal successfully grapple anybody for 5 minutes, and let alone 25.
No. Listen, if the fight goes to the grappling world, we all know that Kamaru will win this fight. But Kamaru should not strike with Masvidal just because he already outstriked Colby. He should not think like that. He's a grappler. He just needs to grapple against Masvidal. That's all he needs to do. Grappling.
I agree. Who is victorious on Saturday night? Who walks out of Fight Island with the welterweight title?
I would go with Jorge Masvidal, finish in the second round.
I'm going to go unanimous decision for my boy, Kamaru Usman. Obviously, I had to go with Usman. That's my guy.
Obviously.
That's my guy, bro. Listen, I've been on this hype train since a very, very, very long time, since The Ultimate Fighter. I haven't gotten off it yet, and we ain't getting off it for a very, very long time. And still, the welterweight king, Kamaru Usman.
There's actually
I've
just
been
a
telling
few.
y'all that's how it's gonna happen.
Yeah, there's actually just a few fighters that would go like against Kamaru, and it's been like Colby and now Jorge, and I think that maybe in the future I will only root for Kamaru, because I don't think that there's not left other fighters that I actually like more than him. But yeah, we'll see.
Listen, in my opinion, when it comes to all-time greats in the welterweight division, Kamaru Usman already sits at the number 4 position. In my opinion, it goes George St. Pierre number 1.
Yeah.
Tyrone Woodley, Robbie Lawler, Kamaru Usman.
Yeah.
That's the way I see it. When you talk about UFC welterweights, that is.
Pretty good, yeah. I agree 100% with you. Yeah, number 4.
Anything else on Fight Island?
Listen, this card, we've been waiting for this card like since February, maybe? No, since March. So it's been a while. We've been waiting for this Fight Island card. The main event is what we needed, what we wanted, what we dreamed about. The co-main event and the fight before, 3 title fights, amazing. Rose Namajunas rematch. We can't ask for more, really. Like the main card is crazy. The prelims and early prelims are legit. This can't go wrong.
Listen. Everyone, you can look at all these other sports and they're doing absolutely nothing. Dana White has put on week after week after week after week after week of great content, live content, brand new content for his fans. And he's getting his fighters paid in the same time. He's taking a loss on the gate and still giving them their money. You have to understand, if you don't like Dana White, you got to understand that he is what is best for the UFC, and once he's gone, it'll be a very, very sad day for this company. Let me tell you what.
Yeah, like him or hate him, but the man, when it comes to his work, nobody's better than him. Nobody will ever will reach half his level, his next level when it comes to this.
No, for sure. Anything else on Fight? I'm straight. Listen, Kamaru Usman, I love watching him fight. I don't give a damn if it's Gilbert Burns, Jorge Masvidal. We
Yeah,
got the Nigerian Nightmare till the end. The
exactly.
co-main event, I mean, if you want to call it a co-main event, Volkanovski versus Holloway is fucking insane. Insane.
Insane.
Okay? And then we have the other title fight, Jan, I think is really going to stake his claim that he is here in that division and really going to hold that thing down for a while.
So give me your three fights that you need to see other than the main event, because both of us will pick the main event. So other than the main event, three fights.
Okay, so outside of the main event, the three that I'm most interested in, I'm going to go at the heavyweight division, Alexander Romanov versus Mycene Tabor. We talked about Romanov earlier. I really think that he is going to be the future of the heavyweight division. That guy is a beast. In the light heavyweight division, Jiri Progonov is taking on Volkan Oezdemir. Jiri is a former Risen champion. I'm probably butchering his name, and I'll get that shit right next time, trust me. But I really think that he is the future in this division. And I think Jose Aldo has the most to win and lose from all of the title fights. And I think that will be the most important fight for his career going forward. And I think if he loses his fight, I don't know what's next for him. So I expect Petr Yan and Jose Aldo to be, until it's over, complete fireworks.
Okay. So for me, it will be Eliseu dos Santos against Muslim Salikhov. I think that it's unpredictable. I think that Eliseu, if actually gets the finish, it will be in a huge way. This is not an easy fight for Muslims, so this is a pretty interesting fight. I would go for Rose Namajunas and Jessica Andrade also, just to see what Rose will look like in this fight. And I think that, I believe that you left me this fight because you're a nice guy. I will go with the co-main event, Holloway against Volkanovski, because why not? Why not go for this fight?
Shoot. It's a great line. There's so many great fights. There's no wrong answers.
Yeah, no wrong answers. Just great fights.
Right. There you guys have it. That is our coverage of Fight Island 1, UFC 251, Saturday. They have normal start times, guys. There's no crazy Abu Dhabi start time. It's not 3 p.m. or anything crazy like that. Normal start time, so pay-per-view starts at like 6, 7. Listen, you're not going to want to miss any of these fights. Early prelims, ESPN. Watch it. We'll be there. We're fucking out.
Peace.